That being said, most of the people around me in medicine said, whoa, why would you stop being a doctor to earn no money and go over to this uncertain territory of being an elite athlete?
Yeah. Bridie, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Pleasure being here.
Out of your busy schedule. Looks like you've been out the road and done a few Ks.
Yeah, I've ridden a few hundred, not a few hundred, a few dozen, hundreds of dozens. It feels like a long morning, but it's a beautiful ride. I've just sort of headed down the beach and back again, so.
Good. So at this stage you must be pretty happy with your form. You've recently just won TT at the Tour in Mansfield.
Yeah.
So happy with how things are progressing?
Yeah, actually I had a bit of a break after National Champs. We had a block of racing that's pretty full on. National Champs, Women's Tour Down Under, and then the Cadel Evans Ride. And all of that racing was fantastic, particularly the Women's Tour Down Under and the Cadel Evans Ride. Yeah. Those races were, the level of organisation was pretty sensational for the women. So it was kind of February, I finally thought, wow, I've got to get back to work and get back into my schedule. And so I had a few weeks break. And now just slowly getting back into it. So actually the stage win at Mansfield was a bit of a surprise. I didn't think I'd TT that well. I hadn't been on the TT bike for a couple of months.
That's, I suppose, often when you think you're not going as well as you are, and often that's when everything seems to click.
And no expectations. Yeah. So in a way then the pressure valve was totally off,
That's great. We're very happy.
Yeah.
So how do you go, balancing everything? You're a professional person, a doctor. And training, like how do you manage to balance everything?
I think I don't train as much as a lot of the people I know.
Train smart.
Yeah, and I think a lot of younger women riders tend to ride a lot of kilometres, and maybe if you don't have a full-time job or uni, you can kind of get away with that. And you can also knock over a lot of kilometres just riding on the back of bunches, which isn't always quality. Yeah. I've always had coaching staff that understand that balance is important, but also that I've had to earn a living. Yes. And the coach I have now, Mark Fenner, who's just absolutely sensational, he knows how much I work and he's realistic about how much training I can do, and I probably train 12, 14, 15 hours a week, not more than that. And so, but it's hard, a lot of ergos, a lot of short specific climbs. Yeah,
that's it. The intensity is the key.
And specificity for the events you want to do well in.
So also, obviously your recovery has got to play a big part.
Yeah.
With so many things juggling, it's easy to burn the candle at both ends. So I'm sure you got to just tread that fine line and.
The hardest day for me in a week is Monday after I've been racing, because I work on a Monday at the Epworth Hospital. Yes. And I have to confess that by about 2 p.m. on Monday just gone, I wasn't like an A+ doctor. I was really, really buckled, so tired, not just from the racing, but just, driving. How I also manage the women's rush team. So it's just that little bit greater level of things to have to think about, not just riding.
Not just you.
You're looking after everyone else.
Everyone else.
Yeah.
And I take it, with working as a doctor, your days aren't your normal hours. It's like a pretty long
it is, but I'm very fortunate. I've got a great job at the moment. I work in a clinic and I'm only there for a 9-hour shift. Yeah. So it's a fantastic job. I've done shift work in the past and tried to be an elite athlete at the time, and done where you do a 24-hour shift and you do that every second day. Yeah. When you think having 24 hours off is fantastic, you think, how good is that? I've got a whole 24 hours off of not working, and then I've got a whole 24 hours in a hospital where literally a day goes by and you haven't been outside. There's no vitamin D on your face. There's no other conversations other than. And this was when I worked in intensive care. That was a pretty full-on job.
So I suppose when you think about that, when you do get the chance to get out on the road, you certainly make the most of it. And,
you do, and you're grateful for opportunity to train sometimes. And also you choose the people you ride with carefully, because you think, either good company or the best training environment, or choose a bunch ride that really suits what you need. And so I do a lot of bunch rides with blokes, and they're all way better than me. They kick my ass. And so that means that I get tested in the right way, and then if I want to ride slow, I can grovel along the beach road on my own.
But it's, I suppose, surrounding yourself with better, or as you said, in your words, faster, stronger guys. It's only going to make you better at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you look at your profession, your cycling career, do you think they've complemented each other in a way, or how do you see it?
Initially I would have said no, and when I started racing in a professional team, I was so much older than everyone else and older than so many other women when you're a neo-pro. And I was 35 as a neo-pro, and so already you're approaching things very differently. I think I was very impatient. I think I lacked a lot of the skills that you need to be a great bike rider, and you know this, that it's not just about who's got the most watts or the most watts per kilo, but can you be in the right position at the right time? Can you allow brakes to go that may or may not be dangerous? I didn't have all that relaxation and confidence that someone like Boss or Armitstead or Van Dyke have. So I was constantly feeling like this needs to be it, today needs to be the race. And I remember even at the time when I was in the national team for the first year in 2008, great group of women in the Australian national team that year, Amanda Spratt, Tiff Cromwell, girls who were a lot younger than me and much better bike riders, more experienced. And what was great about some of those riders is they'd sort of, oh well, had a bad day, tomorrow. And I'd be thinking, no, I gave up my job and my partner's at home and all these things I must. And
no tomorrow.
Yeah, there was no tomorrow. And some part of that is great because you do race like your life depends on it. Part of it is too much pressure. Like road cycling, there's a lot of unpredictable things that can happen in a bike race. So I think in some ways, starting late was a negative. And yet in other ways, I think I've trained harder, I've trained faster, I've been more focused. I'm not lazy. I've got a great work ethic. I've sought out the best people. I think when you work in medicine, science is such a big part of what you do. So you think, okay, I've got a problem. Who do I need to help me fix this solution? I want to lose weight. I go to a dietitian, or I want to improve my power. I find the best coach. I've got a problem with this, I go find someone to help me. I need better equipment, I get the better equipment. So I think perhaps approaching it like that in a very systematic way probably helps me.
So like your profession, do you think that that has certainly helped you, like your understanding of your body and what's required, and that's certainly helped?
And knowing that you're not an expert, you know, I think in cycling and triathlon there are a lot of amateur experts on the internet that can write blogs and forums, and people say, oh, should I be doing this? I should buy this equipment, that sort of stuff. And when you're in medicine, you're evidence-based, so you think, well, why would I do something unless it was the coach or the guy who runs the bike shop or the former athlete telling me things? These are the voices you want to listen to, not just random anonymous sources of information.
Educated.
Absolutely.
So 35 when you went pro? So in the lead up to that 35, like when did you first think, okay, I'm going to have a crack at cycling?
It was actually when I was racing the Ironman, preparing for Ironman Hawaii in 2006, and my partner at the time, he was a professional triathlete, so it was a really great way for us to spend time together, as train together, because as you know, it's really time consuming. He was a great Ironman triathlete, and so I actually remember hearing Warren McDonald, who was the head national coach for women at the time, talk about how Australian women's cycling was lacking the really good time trial riders, and that maybe they needed to look in other ways, and they hadn't really done any talent identification or talent transfer in road cycling. So he said, oh, maybe we need triathletes, maybe we need rowers. And I thought, I've been a triathlete, I've been a rower. And so I emailed Wazza and said, hey Wazza, I'm totally up for it. You know, I want to be a time trial athlete. I'm training for and I'm training for Hawaii. And he was, understandably, he'd never heard of me, and he said, sure, why don't you get back to doing that and contact me when you've done it. So I did that, and I did Bustleton, and I rode a Australian course record for Bustleton Ironman, and I rode 4:48 for 180k, which is 40k an hour for 180k. It's not bad. And I emailed him back and said, okay, I really hated the Ironman. I really suck at running. Come on, I want to have a go at this. And then coincidentally, Tammy Ebert, who's a fantastic PhD scholar from the AIS, was running a talent transfer program. So over the next course of the months, I was involved in the talent ID program. I was by no means the best woman that came to that program. There was some world champion athletes that showed up. But I think I just persisted. I spent all of 2007 just learning, I guess, the craft of doing a time trial. And I went all over the country and did whatever state champs there were. And I decided at the end of that year that I wanted to ride the Chrono de Nation and the Chrono Champenois, 2 time trials in France. Again, I said to Wazza, hi Wazza, is anyone going? Can I go? And he said, oh, well, Sarah Carrigan, Olympic gold medalist, is going, and Naomi Wood's going. And I said, could I go? Could I go? I guess I just kept putting my hand up.
You're persistent.
Yeah. So I went and I came 7th in the Champenois and 2nd in the Chrono de Nation. And then the AIS went, oh, okay, not bad. And then I went to Oceania Champs in New Zealand and won it. And then I won the national championships. So over the course of 3 months, I just really stepped up my results.
Your hand was high.
Yeah, for sure. And as you know, Beijing Olympic year was a big year for selection. And so I thought, okay, next step, going to the Olympics. How hard can it be? You know, and I got measured up for a uniform and everything. But I didn't go to Beijing. I wasn't selected, and I was devastated because I thought, how can this be possible that they would take people who I've beaten? But you know what it's like. Selection is a grey area with a lot of pages in that book.
It's very cutthroat, and there certainly are a lot of grey areas. And I'm sure that was very tough. But that's 2008. We're 6 years, 7 years on.
And I'm still going.
You're still. You must have. That must have pushed you on and inspired you.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that was tremendous was to take time out of my career, which is something that a lot of people don't do. Some people don't do because they're afraid, some people don't do because just logistically or financially it's too hard. If you've got a partner and children to support, you can't just say, hey man, I want to stop being a lawyer, I think I want to open a surf shop. Or
you can't put stuff on hold.
Yeah, exactly. But I was in a situation where I could. That being said, most of the people around me in medicine said, whoa, why would you stop being a doctor to earn no money and go over to this uncertain territory of being an elite athlete? But I just felt like it was too good an opportunity to give up. And so I had, most of my experiences were fun but really difficult. There weren't many satisfying or exceptional performances by me as a pro rider. But I certainly learned a lot about the sport and about the women that do well and the ones that don't. We all get a lot of exposure, I think, in Australia to elite male road cyclists because we just see them a bit more on television, on mainstream media. But we're now, with social media and better sports coverage, we're learning more about who the best women are in the world.
I agree, and that was going to be one of my questions. Is from when you first started to now, you talk about those races that Tour Down Under and the recent Tour, Mansfield. There's a lot of women's races on the calendar, so.
It's fantastic.
You'd have to be pretty pumped.
Oh, it's great. We've got 10 races in the Women's National Road Series this year, and many of them are held in conjunction with the men's races as well, which makes it logistically easier for the race directors. The fact that Cadell Evans said, no, there must be an elite women's race to accompany the men's race, he says there's a demand for this stuff, it's important, this is how we develop sport in all ways, and absolutely, it's brilliant. I think too, when people have watched, say, the Olympic road race, when they saw Marianne Vos and Armitstead ride the way they did, they thought, wow, this is incredibly competitive, passionate, aggressive racing, same as the men's racing. And sometimes even more interesting,
Exactly. And that's it, the quality, I'm seeing, on the velodrome, the quality of the women's race has improved tenfold, There's a lot more disciplines that have been added, and a lot more Madison races. Once upon a time, you would have said women's Madison.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been the depth or the interest.
Yeah, you think recipe for disaster. Yeah. The one in Bendigo just recently was fantastic.
The people up in that part of the Bendigo Madison Organisation Committee are sensational, and they want to push for that event. I wish, I have no skills on the track.
I was going to say
No, look, I'd love to ride on the track, but I don't know if I should get straight into handslings.
No.
Scott McGraw joked that maybe he and I can partner up because he's got a gold medal in it and I've got zero skills, so it might need him out. I think I let him down, But I love the idea about there are more controllable variables on the track. I'd love to try a pursuit, and certainly the idea of the women's hour record has certainly come back into people's consciousness. I think, as you said though, just generally there's more depth and there's more visibility of cycling in general in the mainstream media.
And then I agree. It's social media, that's certainly pushed it, but also you got a guy like Cadell Evans promoting and pushing we need women's cycling.
It's terrific. I actually think he's winning. I don't think we can understate what that meant for Australia, for someone to win the Tour de France. And the way that he did, the way that the team supported him, the way after his journey. I know that sounds like a cliche, but he'd been in a lot of teams where he probably felt slightly underappreciated or undeveloped or just not quite supported in that way. And you got that sense with BMC that they just said, we are here for you, which is something that sometimes a leader needs. They need someone to say, whatever you need, we're here.
Yeah, you're the man.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that, I felt like the footage, I was over in Italy watching the Tour de France, the footage of him coming back into Federation Square and those thousands of people and just how absolutely elated he looked. I thought, this has done wonderful things for fans of sport and fans of his persisters. You know, he is such a persister. He was always great, but he was not a flash in the pan kind of athlete.
Oh, these days as a mountain bike, you know, he's been around for a long, long time. And exactly, you know, I don't know, you could probably say 13 odd years or might have been more till his day came when, you know, he stood on the top of the podium.
What I found really heartbreaking and wonderful about road cycling is, I don't know if you remember, might have been the second or third last time that Lance Armstrong's team were in the Tour de France, and George Hincapie won a stage.
Yeah.
And I remember them saying, oh, this is Hincapie, you know, he's 35 or something, this is his first race win in 9 years.
Yeah.
And you think, so this guy's been getting paid a great salary, he's doing his job, he's famous in America and famous in cycling, but he hasn't actually crossed the line first in 9 years. For 900 days of racing or whatever, and you think, God, people don't win very often. If you're a soccer player, you're winning 50% of the time, statistically, maybe if you don't play for Queensland, but, you know, Melbourne Victory and the Sydney, you know, teams, they think they've got a 50% chance of winning every week. And so with cycling, I guess it's a little bit, you know, and even with you guys, when there was suddenly more depth in the sprint and the Kieran and in 1,000 metres, you know, suddenly then you think it's not actually a surefire win anymore. Ryan Bailey, it wasn't a surefire that he could go from Sydney to Athens and perform the same way.
Not, you know, and he had that big target on his back as well. He was a marked man, so there's a lot of things that, you know, you've got to take into it.
Yeah.
I think I was a bit selfish. I don't think I could have, ridden in a team, you know, a tour team. I want to win.
Yeah, I bet.
It must be a hard gig, you know. You're the workhorse, you're on a, you know, tour, a week tour, or however long it is. Yeah, you've been in that situation.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the things that comes to mind is I went over into China and did this tour in 2009 with this sort of composite hodgepodge sort of team, run by a guy from Brisbane called Marcel, and he owns a bike shop there, and he's been a long time supporter of women's cycling. So he put together this group of women to go over and race this tour against some very good teams. And who should be in our team but this young brat of a sprinter called Chloe Hosking, you know, who had ever heard of her? She went to Junior Worlds and she raced a bit on the track. Anyway, that girl is crazy fast, as you know, and she's gone on to some great results, went to London Olympics, very, very quick. But at the time, she was, you know, she's really young, and I realised something about myself when you talk about selfishness. I think all athletes are selfish in different ways. I'm very selfish in other ways from that. I haven't won as much as you, but one of the things that I got a lot of pride out of was facilitating her wins. And so on a really horrible day with terrible weather and very difficult conditions, and her puncturing and me giving her a wheel and fighting back through a convoy and a lot of aggressive, bigger, more powerful teams trying to block us out, her going on to not only win the stage but then win the tour overall, I felt completely responsible for that. I felt like I am part of something great. Cool. I helped a great person get to the point where she gets to just do her thing. For the first 99k of a 100-kilometre race, all our job was to protect her. And then from 1k to go, I was good for nothing. You know, I was driving the bunch till 1k to go, and then I was out the back, and then she was fantastic and just won the sprint. And you think, actually, she understands she couldn't have got there without us. I can't win the race. I can't go 55k now for a couple of seconds. So, and I don't have the balls to, you know, get my elbows out. No way, I don't have anywhere near enough courage for that sort of thing. But I'm super strong from 3k to go to 1k to go, and I can ride at 350, 400 watts for a few minutes, and that's what she needs. So
exactly, very important.
It is, but then again, if you're a person who gets to shine for a short period of time, and you are loving this stuff with elbow, you're right. What if you had a crappy team that you couldn't rely on, and you always felt aggrieved? You know, I always got that sense with someone like McEwen and Cadell when they rode together that. Who do we get domestiques for? Do we get them for Cadell for the climbing, or do we get them for Robbie for the sprint? And maybe the more selfish guy wins that competition.
It's a tough one. But I suppose, you look at Robbie though, he was the type of guy that he used other teams' trains better than anyone.
Devious and selfish. And that's what you've got to be. You've got to be sneaky, smart, you know, lazier. Not lazier, but craftier, you know.
Yeah, I talked about it earlier with Josiah about craft. Track's probably a little bit different. Road, it's still kept its its feel and the way it's run. We're saying about track out's become very clinical.
Okay.
And there's not as much craft and argy-bargy.
Really? Do you feel that's because you know your competitors a little better in terms of how long they can maintain their power or what they tend to do, their manoeuvring?
No, definitely. Like the commissaires have stepped in, and their rules are very clear.
Damn rules.
So that's sort of that's played a big part in it.
Yeah.
But I think just the racing's changed a lot. But we're saying a lot of craft is lost. So it's a little bit.
You know how we've read some blogs from guys that have gone over to Japan and raced Kieran series over there, and how confronting they found it. I read some great stuff that Benny Kirsten wrote when he went over there, and how he thought, whoa, this is like the Wild West, in terms of how unstructured or unregulated it was. To then see footage of Anamir's win in the Kieran at World Champs just gone, the on-bike camera footage, that is mind-blowing.
Well, that's a good addition, because it does show how close it is. But, you can imagine it being even closer, tenfold, from the past years, where you headbutts and elbows.
Sure.
It's certainly.
But don't you think that comes into the psyche of a sprinter, and then even more so with a male sprinter, if it's about aggressive, threatening behaviour, intimidation, basically. I'm prepared to go there. Are you prepared? And we've seen that in some of those bunch of sprints in the Tour de France, where guys saying, actually, I'm going to put my balls on the line and go there, and it seems to me that I'm braver than you, and so therefore I win.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's it. Some are willing to do that. No chance.
Do you think you need to have a bit of a death wish, or
I think you've got
no fear of death?
Yeah, you've got to be a little bit crazy for sure.
Were you crazy as a kid?
Not crazy. I wouldn't say crazy.
Yeah.
Probably daring.
Yeah.
But I think I had 3 older brothers. I was trying to follow what they did as well. So, but I don't think I was ever crazy. Just like as a kid, you're very competitive and sibling rivalry. Want to be up there with them.
I bet, especially if you're the smallest.
Youngest and smaller. So
I think that's the only downside for women in Australia who are transitioning from other sports to road cycling, and we've seen it a lot. I mean, Rachel Nolan's a great example. She wasn't a cyclist as a young woman; she was an athlete, and so a lot of people come to the sport with good physiology, but not the same skill level. And to go over to Netherlands and Belgium and race in a race with 200 women is very intimidating. And the fact that they can bump into people and push you out of the way, if you can't get out of your head that you might crash, it's performance inhibiting. Thinking, I might crash, you think, well, that's not going to help you in the race.
No. As soon as you start thinking you're asking for trouble.
That's right.
Or, a hand might come over the rail and grab your...
and you're thinking, shit,
which is a bit sad, but... Sporting background, you said triathlon?
But never at school. I played team sports at school. I went to an all-girls school, and they were big on netball and touch football, and I was pretty uncoordinated, as a lot of endurance athletes are. So if you're not good at the sports that your school plays, then you don't think you're an athlete.
Okay, but you're fairly sporty as a...
I was active.
Active.
My dad had played rugby, so he was a really active, coordinated guy, but we weren't a sporting family. Okay. So for me to take some time off during med school and then later during my career to be an athlete was kind of a weird thing to do.
It's a big...
It was just a sort of, why would you do that? What's that for?
So what pushed you down that path?
Oh, look, I did a triathlon in second year med school. And I had a great time. It was terrifying. It was the first bike I'd ever ridden, so I was 19 and never been on a bike.
A short trike would have been a short one.
It was something like a 500 swim, 12k bike and 5k run. And I was so scared about taking my hands off the handlebars, and I had a downshifter on. This is like back 400 years ago. And so I didn't want to change gears because I was so nervous to take my hands off the handlebars. I couldn't even do the U-turn. Like, I had no skills at all. No, I just bought the bike the week before because I thought, how hard can it be? To go from there to being on this beautiful, S-Works Shiv that I ride, TT bike, it's a bit of a transformation, But I think I just perhaps I liked applying the idea of how good can I be at this thing? If I keep training and working hard, how good can I get? And the same with rowing. When I was rowing, I rowed for 6 years.
Yeah.
Rowing is about skill acquisition. You know, combining a skill with the absolute maximum of your physical ability. You know, you see rowers when they finish a race, they literally collapse in the boat, sometimes even before the finish line, unfortunately. So it's exhausting, but you have to maintain form and sit up and do everything perfectly. So for me, I suppose it was a bit of an intellectual challenge. Like, how good can I be at something that's really physically hard? Okay. Yeah.
But so cycling would have been a big part of your cross training for rowing.
Not so much. I think it is now, but I didn't do a lot of it when I was rowing, mainly because I was already kind of good at it and I was so late to rowing. Again, everything I've come too late. So I felt like I must accelerate my rowing, and and I also wasn't tall enough to be a good heavyweight, and I wasn't short enough to be anorexic. So
you were in the four? Was it four or
I was a single sculler.
Single.
And I was coached by Peter Anthony, who you know, extraordinary man, amazing rower, brilliant technician, and some mornings I'd meet him down at the sheds at 5 o'clock and it would be freezing, and we'd go out in a double scull and we'd row down to the Port of Melbourne and we'd just practice layups, which is a technical drill. It's like practicing track standing.
Yep.
We'd do it for an hour and a half and it would be 2 degrees and dark.
I've heard he's
amazing.
Mad,
He's mad and he's amazing, and you think this is why you're an Olympic gold medalist, because when he won the Olympic gold medal, he and his partner in the double scull are like this much shorter than everyone else in the photo. They're just technically brilliant and crazy hard working.
92.
Barcelona.
Yeah,
You were at that Olympics,
I remember it well.
Yeah.